Hi, I am Dr. Elina Hartwell. Welcome to my channel. It is often surprising how relationships can feel both closer and more complicated at the same time as people grow older. What changes is not always the people themselves, but the psychological dynamics between them. As we move into later life, especially after retirement or after the age of 60, relationships shift in quiet but important ways. The structure that once held relationships together, work routines, parenting responsibilities, daily obligations, starts to fade. What remains is something more personal, more emotional, and often more vulnerable. From a psychological point of view, this stage of life brings a simple but powerful truth. Relationships are no longer maintained by duty, but by emotional connection. And because of that, they require a different kind of care. One of the most important changes in later life relationships is the role of expectations. In earlier years, expectations are often tied to roles, being a provider, a caregiver, a decision maker. But later in life, when roles change, expectations often remain the same, and this mismatch creates emotional tension. For example, expecting frequent attention from children who are busy with their own lives, or expecting a spouse to communicate in the same way as before can sometimes lead to disappointment. From a psychological perspective, it is not people who create pain. It is unspoken expectations placed on them. This is why one of the most healing shifts in later life is learning to adjust expectations while increasing appreciation. Instead of focusing on what is missing, the mind begins to notice what is present. Instead of thinking, they don't do enough, the thought becomes, I value what they do when they can. This shift does not weaken relationships. It strengthens emotional balance. Another important element is emotional regulation. In later life, emotions may feel more sensitive. Small words can feel bigger. Small actions can feel more meaningful or more hurtful. This is a natural psychological response to increased emotional awareness and reduced external distractions. But reacting immediately to emotions can sometimes create misunderstandings. Emotional regulation means pausing before responding. It means allowing space between feeling and reaction. For example, instead of responding in the moment of irritation, taking a pause, even a short one, can prevent unnecessary conflict. It allows the thinking part of the brain to engage before words are spoken. In relationships, this small pause can make a very large difference. Another key psychological principle in healthy later life relationships is acceptance of differences. One of the most common sources of conflict is the belief that others should think, behave, or respond the way we do. But each generation, each individual, and each personality is shaped by different experiences. Children may have different communication styles. Spouses may have different emotional needs. Friends may have different priorities. Trying to change others often leads to frustration. But understanding and accepting differences creates space for peace. Acceptance does not mean agreement. It means recognizing that differences are natural, not personal attacks. When this mindset shifts, relationships become lighter. Another important aspect is communication. Not just how often people talk, but how they talk. In healthy relationships, communication is not about winning, proving, or correcting. It is about understanding. Psychologically, using calm, simple, and non-blaming language reduces defensiveness. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," which can create resistance, a more effective approach is, "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted." This type of communication focuses on feelings rather than blame. And when people feel less blamed, they are more likely to listen. Tone also matters significantly. A calm tone can soften difficult conversations, while a harsh tone can escalate even simple discussions. In later life, where emotional sensitivity may be higher, tone becomes even more important than words. Another key factor is emotional independence within relationships. Healthy relationships are not based on emotional dependence. When one person becomes the sole source of happiness, pressure builds on the relationship. Psychologically, this often leads to disappointment on both sides. Instead, healthy relationships exist when individuals maintain their own emotional balance while still enjoying connection with others. This means having personal interests, maintaining inner stability, and not relying entirely on others for emotional fulfillment. When this balance exists, relationships become more relaxed and less demanding. It is also important to understand the role of loneliness in later life. Sometimes what feels like conflict or dissatisfaction in relationships is actually loneliness expressing itself indirectly. Instead of saying, "I feel lonely," a person may express irritation, complaints, or emotional sensitivity. From a psychological point of view, recognizing loneliness as an underlying emotion can change how we respond to it. Instead of reacting defensively, one can respond with understanding. "It seems like you're feeling alone right now." This simple shift can transform the emotional tone of a conversation. Another important element of healthy relationships is maintaining small, consistent connections. In later life, relationships are not built through large events, but through small, regular interactions. A short phone call, a simple message, a shared meal, or even a few minutes of conversation can maintain emotional closeness. Psychologically, consistency creates security. Even small gestures, when repeated, build a sense of belonging. Avoiding connection altogether due to hesitation or fear of rejection often increases emotional distance over time. That is why small efforts matter more than occasional big efforts. It is also important to allow relationships to change naturally. Some relationships become closer with time, some become more distant, some remain stable. Psychologically, resistance to natural change often creates suffering. Acceptance of change creates peace. Not every relationship is meant to stay the same forever, and that is part of life's natural emotional evolution. As the day ends, reflection becomes a powerful psychological tool. Taking a few moments to ask, "Did I connect kindly today?" or "Did I respond with understanding?" helps build awareness and improve future interactions. This reflection is not about self-criticism. It is about gentle awareness. In the end, healthy relationships in later life are not about perfection. They are about emotional safety, mutual respect, and realistic expectations. They are about learning to connect without pressure, to communicate without blame, and to accept without resistance. So here is your call to action. Starting today, choose one small shift in your relationships. It could be speaking more calmly, letting go of one expectation, or making one small effort to connect with someone. Do it consistently, not perfectly. Because healthy relationships are not built in big moments. They are built in small, repeated choices. And over time, those small choices create something deeply valuable: calm, meaningful, and emotionally balanced relationships that feel easier to live with and easier to keep.